Like I said, I grew up in Honolulu, Hawaii. I was born there in 33. And December 7th, 1941, I saw the Japanese planes fly over our house on their way to Pearl Harbor. On the way, Billy Mason, the kid next door, and I were playing war, and we were beating the hell out of the Germans. And as these Japanese planes flew over, they had to fly over Fort Shafter, and Fort Shafter was firing anti-aircraft fire at them. So we ran in and told our families the Germans are attacking. We couldn't tell they were Japanese planes. So they didn't believe us, of course, but then they turned on the radio. In 1942, before my father died, for some reason we moved to a big house on a beach in Wailupe, Hawaii. And at that time, in 42, they were still afraid the Japanese were going to invade the islands. So in the front yard of our house, there were two 30 caliber machine gun nests to protect us from invading Japanese. There was barbed wire along the beach. There were little gates that we could go through that wire to enjoy the beach. But taking care of those guns, there was a company of the U.S. Army. And they were all men from, young men from the mainland U.S. And they all missed their baby brother. And there I was pushing 10. And I could get anything from them that I wanted. And I wanted to smoke. So they gave me the opportunity to smoke. They got me everything I needed. I smoked cigars, pipes, cigarettes. I smoked it all. They offered me chewing tobacco and I turned them down. I was just lucky there were no drugs at that time. Otherwise, they might have got me started on something. My mother found out, and so she made me stop. And so the most interesting part of it is when I began traveling and moving from city to city, I had to meet a new doctor every time. And of course, the standard questions were da-da-da-da-da-da. But did you ever smoke, Mr. Spring? And I said, yeah, I quit when I was 10. And they all enjoyed that story. One of them even called his nurse in, and I had to repeat the story for her. It's been a lot of fun. Okay, I said earlier that my mother taught me to be thoughtful of others. So during the war, my mother was from California and she knew what it was like to be away from home. They moved to Honolulu in 1928. And all these young men from the mainland, they were away from home. And so Mom told us kids, hey, when you're on a bus and you see a lonely serviceman, bring him home. Especially if he's a Marine, if he's drunk, don't bring him. So we began bringing guys home. And Mom made every kid sign the guest book. And it had room for several hundred names. Every kid that signed, he signed in with his parents' home address. And she wrote to every one of those parents. And it was great. So there were guys in the house all the time. Some would come for a day, some of them might get a long pass, and they'd stay overnight. When they came in, if they had any rank, they had to shed it. Officers didn't know who the hell were the privates, and the privates didn't know who the officers were, and so on. So it was all very family-like. They called my mother Mom Spring. And well, that even happened too. After the war, when we had our Scholasticate at Chaminade University of Honolulu, there were a lot of the young brothers that came from the mainland, and Mom tried her best to take care of them, and they all called her Mom Spring. So that was a great experience, and that's where I learned really to be thoughtful, I think, and generous.